All right, good morning, everybody. Good to see you. Welcome to the Residential Energy Code tag for Washington State
Morning.
for June the 13th. Um, awesome to see so many of you here. Um, a few introductory remarks, and then we'll get to all the good stuff. Um, Last week we discussed proposals, but we couldn't vote on them officially because the council had not officially voted them to the tag. Now that has happened. So this week we'll go through some of the same proposals we went through last week. My hope is we will not reiterate the same discussion we had last week. We will maybe summarize that in some ways and then be able to vote some of these forward or down quickly and move on. We have a lot of proposals to cover. Um, Another note, feel free to reach out to people on the tag or people who submitted proposals. Um, all of these are in the public domain now, all the proposals, so you can suggest a modification for somebody else's proposal. You can also reach out to them as a proponent. If someone has a good idea, feel free to reach out to them as well. We want a lot of work to happen outside of the tag meeting so that we get good language, vetted language that comes back to the tag that we can more easily look at, review, and approve or deny. Krista has a list of all the tag members, so you can email her and get people's email addresses if you need to. The only rule is you cannot email a quorum or half of the tag at once, or have a meeting with half of the tag or more at once. That would violate the Open Public Meetings Act, which requires that we provide disclosure, and some people would consider it an open public meeting if you emailed half the tag. In theory, bad things could happen. So as long as you don't include half the tag or more, it's fine. Please reach out, help people with our language and ideas. I'm sorry the schedule has gotten so late for the residential energy code tag. We will be meeting a bit in the summer, and some of you will have vacations, and I apologize in advance for that. It just can't be helped based on the schedule of how we needed to approach the codes this cycle. So we have a meeting today. We've had one meeting in the past, 2 weeks ago. We have the meeting today. We have a meeting on the 20th from 8:30 to 3. We'll have a meeting on the 27th from 10 to 3. We'll have a meeting on the 11th of July from 8:30 to 3. We're skipping July 4th. We figured that would not be a good day to have a meeting. And then it goes to the MVPE committee and the council. So hopefully between today and the three other meetings, we will be able to get through all the proposals. And I also wanted to note you can always go back, usually a day or two after the tag meeting. The recording is posted on the council website. So if you go to the calendar on the council website, you can watch the meeting if you missed something, or if someone said something and you're like, oh, who was that person who said it, or had a great comment on your proposal. So feel free to watch those. You can also watch them on 1.5 speed to make it faster. And then there's also a transcript, an auto transcript that goes along with it, so you can kind of read as well. So I find that really helpful to go back and see what happened at the last tags. Okay, so those are my introductory remarks. Welcome. Let's take a roll call and see who's here.
Okay, Chell Anderson,
I'm here.
Julie Blazek,
Here.
Alexis Suggs,
Here.
Kim Barker,
Here.
Nate Giller, Dwayne Johnlin,
Here.
Jason Garuth,
Here.
Jonah Kinchie said he wasn't going to be available until 10 o'clock, I believe. Albert Rooks was unavailable today. Joel Ward, Gavin Tenold, John Lang, Greg Davenport.
Here.
Shailesh Desai was also not available today. Irina Respetness.
Here.
Brian Russo.
Here.
Kevin Duell.
Here.
Elizabeth Torsky.
Present.
Poppy Storm.
Here.
Patrick Hanks.
Here, and I apologize. I have to leave in about an hour. Have a previous commitment. Thank you.
Wade Craig was unavailable today. Larry Andrews.
Present.
Rick Blumenthal.
Good morning.
Ann Anderson.
Here.
Tom Balderston.
Here.
Michael Brazgala.
Here.
Shane Nillis.
Here.
Luke Howard was unavailable. Nick Manning.
Here, although apologies, I have to run out around 1 p.m. as well.
Greg Johnson.
Present.
Michael Beanland. Deepa Savarajan.
They'll be on later.
And Johnny Kocher.
Here. Present.
And we do have a quorum.
Great. Thanks everybody for being here, for contributing your brilliance to what we're doing today. Okay, we have an agenda in front of us. We will cover the proposals in the order they are here, but Patrick Hanks and others may be gone at various points, so we will not cover a proposal if the proponent is not here. We'll just have it at a different meeting. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the agenda or move something on the agenda?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Okay, motion passes. Let's look at the meeting minutes from May 30th. And again, this was a meeting where we could not take official votes on moving proposals forward or denying them. But we did form a work group or two, and then I think we came to general consensus on several proposals as well.
Motion to
Move.
approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written. All in favor, say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Okay, we are on to the first proposal, and I want to mention that the first two are very similar. We discussed the first one, which is Greg Johnson 002. And just as a summary, I rewatched the part of the meeting and we discussed it last week. A work group was formed. What I heard was that this might be possible for next cycle. We can discuss again if necessary, but we have a lot else to cover. So if that's still the general consensus of the group, that this is probably something for next cycle and not this cycle, then I'd rather dispense with it quickly than have all the same discussions we had last week. So I think Greg and Patrick, do you agree that yours are fairly similar? 002 and 026?
Yes, they're very similar.
Yep.
We wrote,
Okay.
I mean, I didn't even know Patrick was writing one like that, but so we wrote them independently, but yes, they were similar, ended up being similar.
I would agree.
Okay, cool. So I guess we can, I just wanted the tag to know that. So I guess, Greg, what I heard last week is that this might be better as a work group that would work towards something next cycle rather than this cycle. It's your proposal. You can do with it what you want, but if that's your general thought, then I think we should, disapprove it or do something else with it like that. If you want to continue discussing it, we can do that. I think we held a kind of a proxy vote last week, a couple of them, and we got some information out of that about how the tag felt about working on this. Did you have any further thoughts, Greg, on what you want to do with this?
Well, I mean, I don't really have anything to add to the discussion beyond what we already discussed last time. So I don't know if I think it'd be good to let Patrick, if he had anything else to add, and then maybe we dispense with the vote.
Okay.
Has the work group met at all since last week?
No, and really the straw poll was, even if the work group, there was a, which I think I counted a straw poll that majority of people were interested in maybe doing something for next cycle, but even if we have the best thing ever, the straw poll seemed to be that people weren't interested in considering it this cycle.
I was just thinking, if there was another proposal that the tag, since last week wasn't exactly an official meeting where we had the proposals at our level, just kind of a cursory look. If there was another proposal and we said, we'll form a work group, would we want to vote before that work group had deliberated and at least discussed it, or would we want to at least give them time, a week or two, to have a meeting and discuss it and then vote based off their recommendation?
If I could
I
speak,
think that's possible. Go ahead, Dwayne.
My recollection of our last meeting was that it was pretty decisively decided not to, by the majority here, not to move forward with this cycle, not to try to fix it, to focus on the other work we have to do instead. So I'd move to disapprove.
Okay, motion to disapprove. Did you say both of them?
Yes.
002 and 026.
Yes.
I'll second that motion. This is Greg.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I guess just to be completely fair here, Patrick, you agree that your proposal is similar to Greg's, but I guess you weren't here to present your proposal. I don't want you to feel like shorted that somehow you weren't able to present your proposal, even though you've agreed it's similar to one we did discuss. Okay, we have a motion to disapprove both and a second for it. Is there further discussion?
Sorry, I should raise my hand, I guess.
It's okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that this motion would be made at some point, and I think we all know how the vote will likely go. I just think, in fairness, it might have been nice if I was a primary member, I would have probably made a motion to table or postpone, and then just have a short little discussion on it later, a few weeks from now. Let the work group meet, and I'm sure the work group would recommend to consider a next cycle. But that's just, if it wasn't my proposal, if it was somebody else's proposal, that's what I would have done. But I understand people will probably just want to dispense with it now. Thank you.
Patrick, it is your proposal. It is one of them that's in the current motion, 002 and 026, 026, which is yours. You could make a motion to table if you wanted.
I'm not a primary tag member, so I don't think I can make a motion.
Oh, okay. Sorry. For some reason, I thought you were. Okay. All right. Well, no one's made a motion to table, so we will go ahead, Larry. Larry, I do not hear you if you're talking. You might
I'd
be
make a
talking.
motion to table 026 for a week to give Patrick at least time to speak his piece. I mean, I think that's only fair. Everybody else has had a chance to talk. And I mean, he did take the time to make the proposal. Even though it's similar, I think it'd be good to at least let him have a chance to speak.
Right, I
Thanks.
did offer him a chance to speak just now. But if it sounds like the proposal of the table is so that the work group could meet and he could speak with that. Is that the intent?
That's the intent.
Okay, there's a motion to table 026, which, yeah, is there a second for the motion?
I'll second that. This is Kevin.
Okay, we have a motion to table 026. If we table this, we'll go back to the main motion, which would be to disapprove 002. Let's do a roll call vote on the motion to table 026.
Hang on a second, I'm having some technical difficulties.
Okay.
Something crashed.
Oh no.
Bummer.
It happens though. I think last week I was on my phone for the first couple minutes because my computer needed a critical update right exactly when the meeting was started and just shut down.
Okay. Julie Blazik,
Yeah, I'm sorry it's taken so long. I forgot the motion was to table it,
The
correct?
motion is to table 026.
Okay. Yes.
Kim Barker,
No.
Wayne Johnlin,
No.
Jason Garud,
Yes.
Gavin Tenold. Oh, sorry. Greg Davenport,
No.
Irina Respetness,
No.
Kevin Duell,
All right. Yes.
Poppy Storm,
No.
Larry Andrews,
Yes.
Rick Blumenthal,
Yes.
Tom Balderston,
Yes.
Shane Nillis,
Yes.
Nick Manning,
No.
Greg Johnson,
Yes.
Johnny Kocher.
No.
Motion carries 8-7.
Motion carries 8-7. It is tabled. 026 is tabled till next week. We're back to the main motion, which is disapprove 002. All in favor of disapproving 002, say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no.
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 Okay. All right, we'll do a roll call vote on it.
Hey, Julie Blazik,
Yes.
Kim Barker,
Yes.
Dwayne Johnlin,
Yes.
Jason Garud.
No.
Was that a no?
I was a no.
Thank you. Greg Davenport,
Yes.
Irina Respetness,
Yes.
Kevin Duell,
Again, I forgot where we're going
The
here.
motion is to disapprove 002.
Okay, so no.
Poppy Storm,
Yes.
Larry Andrews,
No.
Rick Blumenthal,
No.
Tom Balderston,
Yes.
Shane Nillis,
Yes.
Nick Manning,
Yes.
Greg Johnson,
No.
Johnny Kocher,
Yes.
motion carries 10-5.
Okay, motion carries 10-5. We have disapproved 002 and tabled 026. We are off to 023, Hank. So Patrick, you have the floor. Solar ready zones, I believe.
All right, thank you. This was another proposal that came out of BIW's town hall with members and speaking with them. And we looked at this provision that came from the IECC, and they thought that there was elements of it that was unnecessary and would sort of be burdensome in the terms that these aren't really areas that typically the building official would consider at the plan of the review. And so we tried to propose scaling it back a little bit. So there's still good necessary information, but we're not putting in anything that we wouldn't have to do at that point in the permitting process. That's kind of the simple explanation. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So Patrick, the electrical roughage would still occur for solar ready. It just wouldn't be inspected. Is that the intent?
Yeah, typically what I heard from builders is they typically put in as little electrical information in the building permits as possible. It's not that it's definitely going to be inspected by electrical, but it's just they try to only put in what's absolutely necessary into the building plans. And so if you start, just to save time in the process of not having to put unnecessary information in the building plans that the building official won't necessarily be reviewing.
Okay, yeah, I was looking at 107.2.5 where electrical orphan is stricken. So you're saying it's still going to get inspected. It's just doesn't need to be in the code.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, something semi-related. So when I was reviewing this proposal, caused me to look at the language that was being struck, and I realized we have an error in there. I mean, more or less, it's, so we list in there that we shall verify conduit and pre-wiring from solar ready zone to electrical panel. When you're hooking up solar, so we've had this issue in our areas, people have their electrical, they want to add solar for an existing house. I know this is for new, and for an existing house, and they don't have any circuit breaker space available in their panels, and they don't want to do a big giant main electrical service upgrade. And so I came up with some solutions for customers in our service territory, gave them 3 different options on how they don't necessarily have to hook it to the main electrical panel. You can actually hook it to an outdoor disconnect, or you could put in dual lugs on the meter. And so there's a couple different options where you can hook in your solar without having to bring it to the panel. And so that just made me think when I saw that, I'm like, oh, I know the most common way is run to the electrical panel, but that's not the only option. Wondering, and it made me rethink that maybe this is worthwhile striking, because some of the other options I had, like, the presupposition on here is if you don't have the conduit or the wiring to the panel, it makes adding solar after the fact hard. But I've come up with solutions for people in our service territory where they can add solar after the fact with relative ease. Now, they do have the drawback of some ugly conduit on the outside of their house to do it, but it ends up not being costing much, because you just can swap out the lugs on your meter to dual lugs, add a disconnect on the outside of the house, and run some surface conduit up to the roof.
So Greg, you're saying striking 107.2.5 is fine because there's other ways of doing it?
Yeah, and if you wanted to see what those other ways drawings are, so if you went to mayavista.com/construction, and then we have our electric service requirements, and in section 6, I have 3 different one-line diagrams in there. that would that show how to connect those up. I mean, those are the requirements for people who want to hook solar in for our service territory, but I mean, that would be applicable for, I mean, pretty much any, you'd have to propose it with your utility for some of those, but I mean, pretty much every utility is going to look at it and say, oh yeah, that'd work.
Okay. All right. So you're speaking in favor of the proposal and especially in striking 107.2.5 because there's alternate ways of doing this.
Yeah, and I mean,
Okay.
and we want to encourage solar, and I'd be happy to. I mean, if anyone wants help on retrofitting old homes, I'd be more than happy to just show you how to do it really easily. So.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, my question is there's in this rewrite here on 105.22, there's a change that occurs where basically for the dead load, live load, ground snow load, rather than being clear, it's just for the solar ready zone that it implies for the entire roof assembly. So I didn't know if that was intentional or not. So I kind of like to hear from the proponent if that was intentional and if they'd be open to amending to if not. So
You mean for the specific roof assembly is what you're suggesting? Or for the
yeah,
solar-ready
I
roof
think
assembly?
the current language would say that you have to indicate that for the solar ready zone portion.
Yeah, but
And I think this is broadening it to the entire roof assembly. So
okay, yeah. So if the words for the solar-ready roof assembly or solar-ready zone roof assembly, if that was in there, then that would make more sense.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. I think that sounds reasonable. Why don't you add that in, Krista? I mean, that seems
Yeah, that was,
logical.
I did not intend for that, so thank you, Shane. That's a very good catch and happy to change that.
okay.
Go ahead, Alexis.
I'm in favor of this because as an architect, I feel that showing the conduit and pre-wiring is unnecessarily burdensome on the drawings. And half the time for residential, the electrical contractor is not even on board yet. And so to provide that information, I'm very much in favor of not having that there and more so having the rest of the information that it indicates.
Thanks, Alexis. Dwayne.
Yeah, I think what Greg was talking about is not relevant to this because as he mentioned at the outset, he's talking about old existing houses and not new construction where you can do this easily. I'm not in favor of doing things that are rolling things back and making it weaker and making it harder for a jurisdiction to enforce the code.
Dwayne, so you're opposed to all the R 105.2.2 and 2.5
Yes.
modifications? Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Greg.
Good morning, everybody. I work with a lot of builders that do solar-ready homes and pre-wire for car charging. Oregon's starting to require a lot of solar-ready. The feedback across the board is it's much cheaper and easier to pre-wire for solar and pre-wire for car charging than it is to go retrofit it. So I think we should stay the course here and not roll this back.
Thanks, Greg. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, so I see this is deleting the rough-in inspection, but a final inspection is still required. Is that true?
There's no final inspection required in Washington State for residential.
Oh, thank you. And then another question, I believe for Greg, is having an exterior disconnect an added safety feature? I'm thinking firefighters and utility workers.
Well, you're already required to have that anyways.
Oh.
So all new home, well, there's actually 2 disconnects required. You have to have an outdoor emergency disconnect for your main service already, no matter what.
Right.
And then you're also required to have a photovoltaic lockable disconnect there too, and it's supposed to be located right next to the main disconnect. So you're already required to have both of those. And really, what my point was not trying to loosen the requirements so people don't put in solar. It's just noting that there is other solutions out there that means that it's not any extra effort to add in or the minimal cost to add it in solar after the fact, whether it's a new build or an existing build. And so, I mean, when this was, I'm just reading between the lines, but when this was written, people were kind of locked into oh, it has to be run to the main electrical panel. And back, if you look back a couple code cycles in National Electric Code, they didn't have to have the outdoor emergency disconnect. That wasn't a requirement for the, and they had to have one for photovoltaic, but not the main disconnect. That was a newer-ish requirement in last several years that was added. And so prior to the addition of that requirement, it was a big deal. It was a bigger deal. Like now I have to get my conduit all the way back down to the, you know what I mean, inside the building. But now that we already have existing exterior electrical infrastructure, it's not that big of a deal anymore.
Gotcha. Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. And we still have some residual hands up. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, I would like to table this for another meeting so we can have the electrical group here to speak about this too, to have the Washington State Electrical Group have their representative here that they have on the board and have a discussion with them too, because this needs to be intermingled with the electrical group, because they're the guys going to be doing the work, and we need to have them on board with us, at least have them here at a meeting so they can give us their input. So I would make a motion to table this until we can get one of their people at one of these meetings to discuss all this. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
That's a motion.
Thank you to Larry. Krista, do you know who Larry's talking about?
Lauren Lathrop would be the council member from LNI, although cities do also enforce the electrical code. It isn't just LNI.
Okay, so there's a motion to table, and I'm guessing we could invite Lauren Lathrop. That doesn't mean that they'll show up, but we could at least send them a version of this and have them review it.
Can I say one more thing? I mean, we have the LNI people. It would be good to have a representative from the Seattle Electrical Code and from the Spokane. On the east side, we only have the Spokane group, but it'd be good to have all three because they all enforce the code. Thank you.
And Larry, what are the questions that you want them to look at? Is there something in particular you want them to look at?
Yeah, I want them just to see what we're proposing here and get their comments on what we're proposing. And maybe they might want to tweak it just a little bit. Okay. So we have everybody on the same, on the same platform here, all working together to get a really good code. Thank you.
So, Larry, I don't know if you're going to get what you want. I don't think this is going to really matter to LNI because it
will. I've already had many talks with LNI about what's going on here in the codes. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to table. Is there a second for the motion to table?
Sure, this is Kevin.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for tabling this. I think a motion to table is not just debatable.
Yeah, we can talk about tabling.
Talk about it. Okay. Go ahead, Greg. And Greg, you have the floor.
Well, I'll wait till after we dispense with this vote.
Okay, go ahead, Dwayne.
Yeah, LNI does not inspect for energy code at all, but it does not require an electrical inspector to see if there's a routing for a future pathway that can be handled by any inspector. And then of course those, I think 50% of the state population lives in jurisdictions that have their own local inspectors, and those for electrical, and those are empowered to look at the energy code. But the state won't have anything to say about this.
Okay.
If you're putting in electrical conduits, Dwayne, they're going to be there doing the inspection. Thank
Right.
you.
They just they don't inspect for energy code requirements. They only look for safety, making sure you did all the connections correctly.
Patrick.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody, we're not changing the requirements for solar ready zones. We're not trying to change the requirements of what they have to put in. And all of these things would, if they're doing a solar ready zone, they still would have to put these things in, and these things would have been inspected already by electrical. But just typically this amount of information is not put into a building permit or for an energy code inspection. And there might be a lot of jurisdictions in the state, or not a lot, there's a few jurisdictions, but obviously a lot of people build in Seattle and live in Seattle. So perhaps for those jurisdictions, it would be okay. If it's in the energy code, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But for jurisdictions where the building official doesn't deal with the electrical code, it's just this extra stuff that they typically don't review, they typically don't look at, and the electrical is just going to take care of it, and it's going to be on those plans and things. So I don't think that I'm happy to work on it. I'm happy to talk about it. I have connections with Lauren Lathrop. If the group wants to run it through them and just see if there's any more cleanup they would suggest, I'm happy to do that. But I do think that this would be a good cleanup of the code. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Let's have people speak for and against the motion to table, since that's what's being discussed right now. So go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, I'm not for tabling this for that reason, just to bring in people from the electrical side. And the reason being is I don't think it's necessary if we're not actually doing anything that impacts the technical requirements for installing an electrical system. So if there were a proposal that was specifying size of conduit or size of conductors or something like that, which I would be against putting that in the energy code anyways, then that's something that you should bring them in and get their feedback. But I don't see anything here that warrants that, so I don't think we need to table it. So thanks.
Okay, thanks, Shane. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to ask the question, so I'm sure what this is proposing. It just looks to me like it's saying that we will still have a solar ready zone in terms of roof area and structural,
Yep.
but we will not need to install conduit. Is that correct? Because in theory that there are other ways to do it on the outside of the building or whatever. Is that a correct summary of what we're trying to do?
Patrick?
No, it's not changing the underlying requirements. It's just changing what you have to put on the building permit and what the building official has to look at. So if you still have to
Okay.
do pre-wiring, if you still have to do conduit, you would still put that in. And electricals, anything you install, conduit wiring, electrical's always going to look at that. But typically for most jurisdictions, this kinds of information isn't put into the building permit, and the building official doesn't necessarily review it.
Okay, thank you. And there wouldn't need to be a separate inspection of the solar roofing. So like we're striking out the inspection.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tom. So the motion is to table this. And the underlying idea is that we need input from L&I and perhaps others on this. So a yes vote would be to table it. No vote would be to not table it and to continue to discuss it today. So let's do a roll call vote. A yes vote is to table it. A no vote is to not table it.
Julie Blazik,
No.
Kim Barker,
No.
Dwayne Johnlin,
No.
Jason Garud,
Jason,
I'm
you may-
sorry, I didn't catch that.
Abstain.
Thank you. Greg Davenport,
No.
Irina Rasputness,
No.
Kevin Duell,
Yes.
Poppy Storm,
No.
Larry Andrews, Larry, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Rick Blumenthal,
Oh, no.
Tom Balderston,
No.
Shane Nillis,
No.
Nick Manning,
No.
Greg Johnson,
No.
Johnny Coker,
No.
motion fails 2 to 12 with 1 abstention.
Okay, motion fails. We are back to the proposal in front of us. We could accept it, deny it, or modify it, or something like that. Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, so back on my amendment regarding the area for the roof design. I think you should scratch for the roof assembly, and the reason being is roof assembly is a defined term, and that's specific to the roof covering and roof deck, and it's not really that much about the structure. And I think just saying, you're saying roof dead load, roof live load, ground snow load for the solar ready zone, I think covers it. So
Makes sense to me. Thanks, Shane. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, just for the benefit of everyone, I was wondering if Krista, could you please navigate to myavista.com/construction, just so we can pull up the one lines. They're really quick and easy for people to see.
And Greg, the point of this is that you're saying that you don't need to go through the electrical panel to connect a solar system to the grid on a home.
/construction. So myavista.com/construction would be the fastest way to get there.
I'm still trying to figure out your exact intent in going back to this, Greg.
And then, well, just one more, I'll help Krista. So Electric Blue Book, if you click on the first one under electric service right there, and it's page 144. So my intent is just to show that you're not loosening and making it more difficult to install solar. It's you can still install solar.
Even if you don't do what?
Even if you don't, even if, let's say in the inspection, let's say they missed putting the conduit there, or let's say they put the conduit. So let me go through this and then I think I'll answer your question. So the first drawing is what you'd historically see for a solar system. That's the historical conventional way that used to always be done. They'd have their main breaker fuse panel, and that's where they pull out for the solar system. The generation meter is optional. It used to be way back when we have generation production credits. We'll still install, people still install it nowadays, but most times they omit it. If you scroll to the next page, so there's an option. So if you put the twin lugs in the meter, you can actually tap off and you don't need to go to the meter. And so the meter's on the exterior of the house. So so you can obviously see the difference of if your breaker panel's in your garage, and let's say you need to get a conduit all the way up to the roof of the main house, you might have a long distance, might be difficult. But if your electric meter is on the outside of your house, it may not be that big of a deal. And then your next drawing shows another option for connecting in. Right there, you can also do on the outdoor emergency disconnect, which they already have to provide. That's right there on the outside of the house next to the meter also. So that's just showing that there's different ways you can connect in your solar system, and being that the connection point options on the exterior of the house, let's say if someone were to miss that conduit requirement during an inspection, it's not a big deal for them to surface run that conduit up to the roof.
You're saying if it wasn't installed in the first place.
Yeah. So I'm saying, like, yeah, if let's say they
Yep.
missed the
Okay.
requirement. We didn't have the inspection. We missed doing it. And then you find out like, oh, well, it's not a big deal. They can just have the electrician just run that real quick. I mean, a day later, come back and it's run.
Yep. I think that's the way they did it on my house when they retrofitted a solar system on that. All right.
Motion to disapprove.
We have a motion to disapprove. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to disapprove and a second. Is there, I'm not seeing hands up. Go ahead, Shane.
All right. I think I missed some stuff that happened real quick. So there's a motion to disapprove the proposal as shown.
Correct.
Okay, just real quick, that are we including striking the for the roof assembly because it's not shown as stricken?
It would be, but yeah, I think if we approve this, we would want to strike that. I thought you
Okay,
were a
thanks.
good
I
idea.
want to make sure that everyone can see it the way we're actually going to be voting on it. So,
Yep. Appreciate it. Appreciate your.
yeah, I'll let others talk before.
All right, so the motion is to disapprove. Go ahead, Tom.
I apologize. I'm still confused. Are we voting to eliminate the requirement for conduit? Because
No.
I asked that, we
So-
said no, and then Greg
so-
spoke to the idea that we didn't need to use conduit.
Yes, that's why I wanted to make sure everybody was clear what Greg was talking about. Greg was saying, so the proposal itself does not eliminate the requirement for conduit.
Okay,
Greg was saying, but if somebody misses it, they can always retrofit
I
it.
understand. Yeah, and I understand. I think, I mean, I guess if we were doing that, it would make sense to talk to some solar people because I know that sometimes the conduit gets put in and it's not right. Anyway, when they come back later, do the solar, it doesn't work. But if we're not eliminating the conduit requirement, then this seems like it's simply an effort to make the process simpler. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, I'm going to speak against the motion. We talk a lot about, there's a lot of big things we talk about that can affect cost of construction or housing affordability. But in the codes process, there's also a lot of little things that stack up and just increase time and increase burden and make the code, add unnecessary things to the code, make the process more complicated. And in the case if you're adding another inspection, if you're having trouble scheduling with your building department, if they're short-staffed, that can add up and create delays and increase costs. And to me, this is just a really simple area where we're not changing the underlying requirements of the code. We're not affecting energy efficiency. We're just doing a slight little tweak to just keep things simpler, keep things moving, and not changing the underlying requirements. And I think this would be just a helpful little tweak we can make. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Go ahead, Greg.
I just want to highlight, I am an electrical engineer. I work at a utility. The drawings that you just showed for that electric service requirements for how people get that whole document. I was the editor of that whole, in writing and wrote that whole section. And I'll just note that when we have solar installers who try to do install things, I'm one of a couple engineers that gets reached out if something falls outside our standards and they need help on how to do stuff and helping them do and provide this type of stuff. So, I mean, I really know how this stuff works. And so I'm not just arguing to loosen requirements. I'm just saying that that's unnecessary to demand an inspection. And if something gets missed in this situation, it's not a big deal. So.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. Go ahead, Shane.
Also against the motion. I think that this is completely appropriate, this proposal. The reality is and speaking both as somebody that's drawn up plans and as a prior building official, that there is a certain level of information that goes on plans and something like this, to me, is one of those where it just slows up permit process. It's probably not going to be accurate with what happens out in the field. It's just an extra onerous step that's not really going to gain a lot. And on the inspection piece, I couldn't tell how many times that if you have a situation where you're trying to get two different authorities trying to look at the same thing, that can also lead to a situation where whoever's the contractor, the owner might say, well, but they already said it was okay. And so I think in general, just trying to rely on whoever's going to be inspecting the electrical is good. And the reality is if they're doing a solar ready zone or they're doing something, just you're probably gonna as a building inspector have a general recognition of what's there, but giving that specific direction to make them do it puts more responsibility where they might step on the toes of L&I or the local electrical inspector. So thanks.
Okay, thanks, Shane. Go ahead, Alexis.
Yeah, kind of mirroring what has also been said. As an architect putting on the drawings, like that is something that's extra onerous. It slows down the process. It adds bulk to my drawings, and it's something that would take me a few extra hours, which means passing that cost along to the customer. Or if I don't do those drawings because I would prefer for the electrical installer to do it, then we've got to bring on that electrical installer earlier, and they have to do the drawings. And again, that adds bulk, that adds time, that adds costs. And all of these little pieces really, really add up. I've worked in other states that are that don't have these kind of little things, and they just really add up. So I'm in favor of simplifying. I absolutely want the solar ready zone, but in terms of like the detail given, I'm want it simplified.
Okay, thanks, Alexis. Go ahead, Poppy.
Yeah, I just had a question. We've had some comments about how this simplifies the code, and I'm just wondering if there's anybody that is speaking in favor or is in favor of this motion, if they could clarify or reiterate what the risks are in this proposal and why it would compromise the stringency of the code. Like what could the potential consequences be, negative consequences be?
So you're asking for someone who's in favor of the proposal to speak about what the potential risks are.
Yeah, just a request if there's anybody that has something else to contribute on that front, it would be really helpful to kind of understand the proposal and its potential impact.
Do you have like a more specific thing that you're looking for? Because Shane is a former building official and literally just spoke to how this could be helpful.
Well, and I'll just ask, Poppy, it sounded like you were saying someone that's for the motion, because the motion's for disapproval. So were you looking for feedback from the proponent or from someone who wants this disapproved?
Yeah, somebody who wants this disapproved. And I know that Dwayne had made some comments originally. I've heard a lot about how this simplifies the code after that. I'm just not really sure what the potential negative impacts are. And it's something to seriously consider when we're talking about removing a requirement. And I just wanted to see if there's anybody that could contribute anything on that front.
So I'm not for it, but I could give you some cons. I can argue, give you the cons. Cons would be is if someone misses it, they have an ugly conduit on the outside of the house where they would otherwise have it recessed. But in fact, having ugly conduit on the outside of the house is actually more energy efficient than trying to have less insulation. I mean, negligible, doesn't really matter, but then embedding in the walls. That's the biggest con I see is, you were stuck with maybe a short section of ugly conduit.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we'll vote on this thing. The motion is to disapprove. So a yes vote would be to disapprove this proposal. A no vote would be to continue discussion on the proposal. So a yes vote to disapprove, a no vote to continue discussion. Let's do roll call.
Julie Blazik,
No.
Kim Barker,
Yes.
Dwayne Johnson,
Yes.
Jason Garrett,
Oh.
Greg Davenport,
Yes.
Irina Respetness,
Abstain.
Kevin Duell,
No.
Poppy Storm,
Abstain.
Larry Andrews,
No.
Rick Blumenthal,
No.
Tom Balderston,
No.
Shane Nillis,
No.
Nick Manning,
Abstain.
Greg Johnson,
No.
Johnny Coker,
Yes.
motion fails 4-8 with 3 abstentions.
Okay, motion fails.
I'll
Motion
move to accept the proposal.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so Shane's made the motion and Larry seconded it. Oh, okay, so the motion is to approve 026 as shown on the screen with a few minor modifications. Let's do a roll call vote on this one.
Julie Blazek,
Yes.
Kim Barker,
No.
that was a no? Kim?
No.
Okay. Dwayne Johnson,
No.
Jason Garrett,
Yes.
Greg Davenport,
No.
Irina Respetness,
No.
Kevin Duell,
Yes.
Poppy Storm,
No.
Larry Andrews,
Yes.
Rick Blumenthal,
Yes.
Tom Balderston,
Yes.
Shane Nillis,
Yes.
Nick Manning,
No.
Greg Johnson,
Yes.
Johnny Coker.
No.
Motion carries 8-7.
Motion carries 8-7. Okay. All right, we got through 023. It is approved as modified. We're off to 014 Blumenthal. Rick, are you around?
I'm here.
All right, well, let's get to it. You have
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
you have the floor.
Okay, I apologize. We kind of discussed this a lot last time. So if I recall correctly, most folks were against this. I'm just thinking out loud here. Pardon my memory lapse if it's not
I
correct.
think we discussed 011 last time, not 014.
Okay, this is for which one is this? Remind me.
It's on the screen.
Yeah, I can see the screen. Could you scroll down further, please? Yeah, this is for bib dense pack. Yeah, okay, this is the other proposal. Yeah, correct. So basically, this is the only way to verify that a blown-in blanket system, a dense pack system, bib system, in wall assemblies or any other assembly for that matter, is to understand the manufacturer's recommendations for density requirements to meet the manufacturer's expected R value. And the only way to do that is to weigh a sample based on the requirements that the manufacturer recommends. So if they say that you need 1.8 pounds per cubic foot to meet an R value of an R23 in a 2x6 wall, then you have to measure it. There's no way to put your hand on it, to look at it and visually inspect what's in that wall, what the density is. So you have to weigh a sample. Takes a few minutes to do. It's nowhere in the code except for every other insulation has to have a label on it or a way to verify it by measurement. This is the only system that does not have a requirement for that in the code. So I'm just recommending and suggesting that we do require that system to be verified as well. So that's the gist of this. And I proposed ways to do it that are standard in the industry. So that's pretty much the synopsis of everything.
Thanks, Rick. Go ahead, Dwayne.
My concern here is that in my previous life as an architect, when we're submitting for permit, we don't have bids yet, and we don't know who the manufacturer. This would be a subcontractor bid, and we don't know who that is, and so we wouldn't have that information until much later.
I have to disagree with that because you don't know what anybody doesn't know what insulation manufacturer is being used anywhere. All we do is call out R values or U factors, and that's all we're looking for. Doesn't matter who the manufacturer is because every manufacturer requires a different density based on their insulation. So in other words, if you're going to use cellulose as a blown-in system, it requires a lot higher density, almost 4 times the density that fiberglass requires, because it's a different material, it settles, and it has a different R value, and it has way more different ingredients besides the cellulose. It has things like fire retardants in it that don't add any value to the thermal resistance of the material. So
Rick,
we still hang on one sec. We still measure in an attic. We don't know what the material is until we know.
Right.
Okay,
so
thanks.
we don't know. You're saying it's specific to the manufacturer. With the other kinds of insulation you mentioned, like you said, you can look at the label or whatever. With this, when you don't know the manufacturer at the time of permit, then how do you put in the manufacturer's instructions? That's my concern.
The only thing that we're required to do is meet the R value, period, end of story. How do you verify it is the question. Doesn't matter who the manufacturer is, just like it doesn't matter who the manufacturer is if you use a bat. Is it Johns Manville? Is it Owens Corning? They all have labels on them and they're all not the same. They all don't have the same thickness for the same density for the same requirements. They're all different and they're all labeled accordingly.
Rick, you're correct, but Dwayne is also correct that architects, when getting a permit, do not know the manufacturer of the insulation. It's up to the contractor to select the manufacturer later. So it functionally doesn't work to put them on the construction documents. They put the manufacturer on the construction documents.
I apologize. I must have confused everybody. This has nothing to do with putting it on the construction documents. It has to do with
information in construction documents.
Right. Information on the construction shall clarify and indicate the location, nature of the work proposed. Okay, so we're putting wall insulation in. What are you putting in the walls? It's in there, okay? Sufficient detail to pertinent data features of the building systems. We're putting a 21 in the wall. That's all that's required there. What I'm recommending, and if I misquoted this, I apologize, but what I'm recommending is on-site measurement, and it only takes a couple of minutes to do.
And I think that's in our 107.2.6, I think that's in there, but under R105.2, it requires, as you've written it, the manufacturer's recommended density on the construction documents, which are just not always available or often available when an architect is preparing drawings for a permit. So
I agree.
I think that's the issue that Dwayne's bringing up. And so
I see.
there's something about item 2 that should probably be different. For maybe for all installation materials, but not, and then strike including the manufacturer's recommended density. Because we just don't have that information when we're preparing drawings.
No, I agree. I don't
Okay.
disagree.
So what
So
if we
that's,
strike
yeah, it's
everything
worded
out?
incorrectly.
If we strike everything out after the word materials or 2, because we don't have the manufacturer's recommended density. I guess.
Why don't we just for all installation materials, including the manufacturer's requirement to achieve the manufacturer's published R value and cancel
But we don't
everything
have
else out.
we don't know the manufacturer. That's the problem. For number 2,
right, and I agree. But again, we need to word it so that it doesn't necessarily say this to be included in the construction documents. I agree.
Okay. So does 107.2.6 cover that? Because it includes includes, I think, what you mentioned, which is
yeah, it does.
So maybe we don't need to change our 105.2 at all and only change our 107.2.6.
Yeah, that looks correct.
And then I don't see where testing is required in our 107.2.6, which you said was critical.
Inspections and this is what the code says here. Made before application or interior finish shall be to verify compliance. How else do you verify it?
Yeah.
There's only one way to verify the density, and that's to weigh it. That's the only way to do it. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's another way to do it. One of the manufacturers, Owens Corning, actually has a gadget that they sell. Okay, and
I guess what I'm saying is 107.2.6 doesn't necessarily require, or I guess it's not clear to me that it requires testing. So there might.
How else do you verify compliance in that system is my question.
He's talking about the wording of it doesn't seem to require testing.
Exactly. Verify compliance. Yeah, I mean, I think someone could interpret it the way you are, but I don't know that it's clear that what you're saying is reflected in the actual specific language that we're seeing in front of us. So
Okay.
I'm gonna open it up to everybody else to see if they can provide information on this. I want to keep it kind of brief, so if you have a great comment, make it. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I expect I do a lot more installation inspections. I do a lot of installation inspections, and I've done density testing. My concern, Rick, is I guess the costs and time of doing this. I definitely support density testing as a training method for installation installers. But I found that, well, it takes more than a few minutes. You have to have a scale. You have to calculate the size of the stud bay you're going to cut out and then get that into a bag and weigh it, right? And
yeah,
I guess my question is, how would you
exactly? So I'm sorry, go ahead, Tom.
How would you require this test be done in one place, or would it be in 6 places around the house?
Can we scroll down on this document?
I guess that's my
please?
first question.
Yeah, could we scroll down on the document,
What's
please?
the test standard? And then my other question is, what would the training required be for the building inspectors? Because they don't know how to do this test at this time.
Okay, so this is how you do it. It's really simple. And if you scroll down even further, I included a table. Okay, this is not hard to do. This takes literally minutes. I've done hundreds of these to verify these. It's a very simple solution. If you scroll back up a little bit, just a little bit, please. Stop. This is a double wall assembly. This is all you have to do. You just cut out a sample. Everything stays in place if it's done correctly. If it starts to fall out, you know it's wrong. You do this about every 500 or 600 square feet. That's all. So standard house, you could do this 3 times. And the insulator needs to do this, just like they need to put measuring sticks in the attic.
Would the code require So you're not saying that the building inspector has to come out and
No,
do the
this
test?
has, no, this is on, this is for the installer to demonstrate how and what they did and
Oh, okay.
what the weight is. And it's, you put it on here. You do exactly
then-
as I've showed it. You take a magic marker and you write the date and you write the measurement. And then when you're done with that, you cover it up, you put your hose back in and you fill it up. And 500 or 600 square
okay.
feet later, you do another one.
So there's no test report or anything. There's the installer just needs
Nope.
to write this. He needs to do the test and write it on there.
Correct.
And once in the house, one place.
500 or 600 square feet, every 500 or 600 square feet. And you want to do your third cavity or fifth cavity immediately before you do the whole house. Because if you get a couple of them wrong, now you got to measure every single stud bay. So you
Is that
measure
in the
as you
code
go.
language?
You measure as you go. There's nothing in the code language to do this measurement. Nothing.
Right. No, I mean in your proposal, is this in the language of the proposal? 500, one test per 500 square feet.
I believe I wrote that in there.
Okay, it just wasn't scrolled maybe so I could see it.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the code language part, I don't
No,
think.
it's not there.
Okay, it might not be there. I thought I mentioned it, but it's 2 or 3, standard house, 2,100, 2,500 square feet, you do it 3 times. We're
Okay.
talking about, if you
Okay.
do it 3 times, we're talking about 20 minutes. You need a garbage bag, an $8
What we need
digital
is,
fish scale.
Rick, we need code language that supports or that reflects what you're describing. And I think Tom is right that the code language does not reflect what you're talking about.
Okay.
So I'm going to suggest that we take a few more comments and then table this until we have good code language. So that supports what you're talking about, if people support it. Now, if people are completely against it, speak against it and say, this is a really lousy proposal and I don't like it. But if you're in favor of it, make a few comments and then we could table it and can consider it later. Patrick.
Yeah, thank you. I think the last couple minutes hearing more from Rick, I better understand what he's trying to do here. And I appreciate that he wants to make sure that what's supposed to be in there is what the customer's ultimately going to get. And I think it's clear that the code language doesn't match what his intent was, and I think he should get an opportunity to try to bring those better in line. I think ultimately I would still be opposed to this proposal because even if it only takes 20 minutes per sort of weighing, you have to do that 3 times per house. If you have a 50-unit development, you're adding 50 hours of extra time to the construction. And I just think at scale, I would have an issue with that, but I think we should give him an opportunity to come back with a revision. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, I don't think we'll need to table this. I respectfully think that there's nothing that was discussed that needs to be added to achieve what's the goal. So, just on language that's already in the code and the sections that are being edited, when you look at the inspection side of stuff, just simply saying "and proper installation" is all you need to tell the building official. Now, as far as getting proper installation, you need to take a look at R303.1.1, where it specifically discusses the requirement for density, and it also gives the path that would require certification by the installer and posting of that to identify that they've actually installed it properly in order to get the achieved R values required by the manufacturer. So I think this is just adding words in another section of the code and it doesn't achieve anything and it's just not necessary. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, I'm a real proponent for blown in bib because it gets in everywhere and seals every crack. And the guys that are doing it, they do it every day over and over and over. And they do a great job. I mean, we've done 3 or 4 big custom homes and when you see that kind of pooch out just a little bit out past the joist space, you know, the stud base. To me, it's getting in there and it's doing its job. And if you put your body up against that, you can feel the difference. Now you put your body up with a bat system, you don't have anywhere near the sealing factor that you get in a blown in bat. It's a superior system. And I think they do a great job as they do it. I mean, I don't know anybody that I've seen that didn't do a great job. Thanks.
Thanks, Larry. Okay, looking for a motion to approve, disapprove, or table. Go ahead, Shane.
So, well, I was just gonna suggest maybe pulling up R 303.1.1 so everyone can see it. I should have said that when I was first speaking.
Yeah, it applies to ceiling insulation, roof insulation, right?
It's building thermal envelope.
That's correct.
Building thermal envelope.
Yeah.
Not specific to roof.
I have a quick comment, if it's okay.
Sure.
Everybody's talking about guessing what's in the wall. No one's talking about verifying it. How do you know the difference between what Owens Corning wants and what Knopf wants? You can't tell by running your body against it. You can't tell by saying, I've looked at 400 houses and they all look good. You can't do that. We need to find out what the density is, or the risk is great, not only to the building and the assembly, but the owners are going to pay for the rest of their lives. Okay? If you don't measure it, you're guessing. We do not have a way to measure it. We need to find a way to measure it to verify it. You can't say it feels right, because I can tell you from working for a manufacturer of insulation for 8 years, nobody can tell by feel, including the people that have been doing it for years. Can't tell. You got to be able to measure it. That's why it's in the codes. That's why we have measuring sticks. That's why we have labels. If there's no way to measure it, there's no way to verify it. So you have no idea what you're getting. That's all I'm suggesting. So if anybody has a better way to measure it than density and meet the manufacturer's requirements, what are required by the code to meet the manufacturer's requirements, okay, if we can't do that, then we're slighting everybody, okay, except the installer who can cheat. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Thanks, Rick. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I agree with Rick that this, I mean, the reason I think this makes sense is if I look at 303.1, it says for blown to separate insulation, that you should have a report listing the installed thickness, settled R value, and that language applies to ceiling insulation, I think. And so I think what he's saying is we need something for blown in wall insulation, and it seems like maybe the language, Rick, you propose should be an edit to 303.1.1.
Well, 303,
and to
sorry
say,
to
you know, in an attic, you have to put tapes up that show how thick it is and have an insulation certificate. So I think I agree with you. We're not requiring anything right now about blown in walls, any kind of stamp. Whereas, I mean, the other thing is that fiberglass bats have a stamp on them, the R value, but we're not enforcing, even though the code says they have to be installed flat and smooth and filling the cavities, we're not enforcing that really at all. So, so it would be, we need to improve that side of it too somehow.
okay, so just
but anyway.
just to say, sorry to interrupt, but I'm only looking at 2 words here. Installed density is a requirement. It's right there in 303.1.1. It's right there. It says it, installed
But
density.
I think the language was written in thinking about attics, because I think probably at the time language was written, there wasn't that much blown in wall insulation happening, perhaps.
I disagree. You
311
can't.
is wall insulation. 111 is roof ceiling.
And you can't. We can't discuss what they thought about when they did this, because I mean it just says installed density. I don't know how much clearer you can be.
So this
If we
applies
can't
to
check
wall
it,
and-
all
this
I'm,
applies
all
to
I'm
wall
recommending
insulation
is
as
if we
well.
can't check it, we can't verify it.
So
This applies to wall
the
insulation.
code now says that installer has to provide a certification. So what certification are they having to provide now?
Well, according to this, the certification has to provide the installed density because it says it.
Mhm.
How do you do it?
Okay,
It's
we are
gotta be
moving
what-
up to
you
the
have- yeah,
name
has to be a way
technical
to do it.
advisory group, and we're having lots of detailed technical discussions. I think this proposal probably needs some work, and we can't spend an infinite amount of time on this proposal. I think some challenges in the code are identified. We have a proposal. I think the words need to change based on what the proponent wants. So I think we should either the tag can do what they want, but I would recommend that we table it and that anybody who is interested help Rick write language that reflects the intent that was stated. Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah. Well, this is Rick. I'm cool with that.
Does anybody want to make a motion to table?
Sure.
Or
I'll move to table it.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
I'll second the motion. This is Greg.
Yeah, we have a motion to table in a second. All in favor of tabling, say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, we have tabled this 014. Who would like to talk to Rick about improving the proposal?
Yeah, I will.
I'm willing. This is Greg. I'm willing to help Rick too.
Okay, Greg Davenport and Tom Balderston. So Rick, do you have their contact information?
I do.
Okay, why don't you email them, and then we will get back to this one at a future meeting, and we'll have language that reflects your intent better.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. We are Patrick.
Yeah, I have to run, but a 027 Ann Anderson co-authored that, and I think she will do probably a better job than I could talking about it. So the tag can feel free to discuss that one with her.
027. Yep.
Yes.
So you designated someone to represent you for 027, is that what I heard?
She's also listed on the proposal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
thanks, Patrick.
just wanted to be clear, so thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, Shell. I have a meeting at 10 to 11, but Elizabeth will be in my stead.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Kevin. Okay, we're on to 011, another Blumenthal one. My recollection is that this was the tag had a lot of critical comments about this, and we might need some language on continuous installation in C404.2.1, and that this also overlapped with IRC and IBC. And those are my quick recollection of what we discussed last time.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I can recall as well.
Okay, do you want to spend a minute talking about it, Rick? Or otherwise we could take a tag action on it.
Well, I think we did quite a bit of discussion on it, and I don't want to belabor the issue. I mean, I pretty much understand where the tag's at. Nobody wants to spend any more time or money, and I get that. So as far as I'm concerned, again, I'm just, overly concerned about the quality of the installation. And if we don't put eyes on it one way or another, I'm not sure it's going to be effective. And even if we, spend 2.5 minutes, obviously, depending on the size of the house, walking around, just making sure everything is taped, and everything's covered, even if it's that simple. I'd be okay with that, at least some look. But if we're not looking at it at all, then I don't know that we're doing our due diligence. But again, I do understand the restrictions on time and budget. So I'm all ears.
Okay. All right. Does anybody want to make a motion on this or continue discussion? Go ahead, Alexis.
I wanted to ask a clarifying question. With the highlighted portion where it says the CI fastening schedule meets the manufacturer's or registered design professional's requirements. Much as I would love to assume that it's always going to be an architect, a residential building can also be designed by a design professional. By using the word registered, that does imply architect. That does exclude a designer, the way that I read it. So I was just asking if that's the intent.
I think, okay, yes, right now there's a manufacturer or a registered design professional, and that was a modification. Right, what I heard at the last meeting is that this one was overall probably going to be disapproved. So we could wordsmith it. Is anybody, I guess I want to ask the question, is anybody supportive of this proposal? And if so, speak for it. Otherwise, I don't know that we need to discuss specific wording. If you're supportive of this, raise your hand and I'll call on you. Go ahead, Kim.
As a code official, I do like the clarity that this adds for the continuous wall installation inspection. And in terms of the registered design professional, I think that the key there is it's manufacturers or registered design professional. So you would default to the manufacturer if it's a designer, not a registered design professional. But that's saying a registered design professional could provide a different fastening schedule.
Yep. Thanks, Kim. Go ahead, Larry.
I would support a look at the envelope out there. I think it is important. You spent the money for the material. Let's get someone to take a look at it. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. Okay, so we have some people that support this. Okay, so I guess wordsmith away if in general the tag is supportive of this. I thought after our last discussion that we had kind of landed on probably not supporting it, but go ahead, Shane.
Well, yeah, so I'm not supporting it. So as a reminder, we did talk a lot about this. I also agree that the direction was that it was felt as unnecessary, and a lot of these requirements span other codes. With the comments brought up about the continuous installation, just as a reminder, we also identified last meeting that in 10726 it already recognizes that you have to inspect it prior to application of the exterior finish. And so I think in that discussion we recognize that there's no hole in the code that's already covered. So I overall I just, these are all important things. The language isn't needed to address it because it's already covered, whether here or in other codes. Education is big, and so I want to give a shout out to Rick because I know he does that a lot and provides education. And so I think that's how you address things like this, not by duplicating things in the code. So I would actually like to make a motion for disapproval.
Okay, thanks, Shane. We have a motion to disapprove. Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Thanks, Dwayne. Okay. Greg.
Yeah, if my recollection is correct, I believe the reason why everyone was against this last time was because the air barrier or weather resistance barrier occurred at different locations in the wall in different ways you could design it. Like sometimes you have the continuous insulation on the outside, but sometimes you have the air barrier and weather barrier on the outside of the insulation. So it varied. Is that your recollection, Chell, and others?
Yes.
That
Sometimes the continuous insulation is not the vapor barrier. Yep.
And so then that was like this language was written specifically for one specific construction type, but then if the type varies, well, this doesn't really allow for a different location for the air weather barrier. So,
Yep.
So that's good reason, that's support for why to disapprove it for that reason.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, we have a motion to disapprove. All in favor of the motion to disapprove, say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Okay, motion passes. O11 is disapproved. We are on to 024, but Patrick is not here. So we will move to 048, Sherry Newbold, and my notes say that lots of people were in favor of this last time. 048. Sherry, are you?
I am here.
All right, great. You have the floor. We discussed this a bit last time. I think most people are in favor of it, but if you've made any modifications or have any further thoughts, go for it.
And I think that this does reflect the modifications that we discussed last time in the last tag meeting. And all the goal of this is to just align the possibility for the missing middle structures that are being required to be regulated under the 2024 IRC, and that is in process in that single stair / multiplex IRC tag. So that's happening right now, and I'm just looking for a way for the residential energy code to also be applied to those structures if people choose to do it, so that people could choose to comply either with the residential or the commercial energy code if they build, say, a sixplex with an interior where all the units are accessed from a single or accessed from an interior area of the structure. So yeah, just to be able to align all of these things across all the different codes is the goal.
Thanks, Sherry. Dwayne.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of this. It's making a very specific carve out for a very particular building, 3 stories with 2 dwelling units on each, I guess, and moving that, making that one particular configuration have the choice of either code. It's making adding another wrinkle of confusion, and it was based on the premise that it's going to be cheaper to build to the residential code, and I don't think there's any evidence for that at all.
Thanks, Dwayne. I do have a subtle question, which is about when it says can choose to comply with residential or commercial energy code provisions. I'm assuming it means you comply with either all of the residential code or all of the commercial code and not individual provisions of those codes.
Exactly.
Yeah, if there's clear language on that, great. It's fairly clear to me, but I wanted to ask the question. Go ahead, Alexis.
Yeah, I'd like to speak in favor of this. In speaking with many other architects and communication with a lot of solo architects, and this is a very common complaint that this is not included. That once you access from interior space, now you're locked into the commercial code. And they say that it really prohibits people from pursuing this type of project. And because of the expense, because of the not as familiar, and the level of detailing that is required on the commercial side. So this is a common complaint. A lot of architects that I know in the area have requested this change. So I'm very much in favor.
Thank you, Alexis. Go ahead, Greg.
So most of this targets affordable housing, I believe. Is that correct, Sherry?
That's right. And I would also say that it's not a very specific building type. It doesn't have to be 2 units, one set of units on each level. It's just any configuration that's up to 6 units and up to 3 levels above grade, where things are accessed from the interior. It would give that option.
And this aligns generally with the RCW definition that the other parts of the Building Code Council are working on for multiplex and multiplex housing.
Because in the commercial tag that we had a lot of discussion on affordable housing and a lot of challenges with with the cost. I mean, I think it was it Patrick Hayes that testified of multiple projects that were designed, and I don't know if those were 6 units or more or less, but he testified there's multiple projects that were ended up being like millions over budget, and they just canceled the project and didn't build it because the commercial code was too expensive.
Yeah, so at the last cycle, Patrick Hayes and many others agreed that the commercial code and residential code were roughly equal in cost or reasonable, and so moving the R2 with interior entrances for the commercial code was okay. And then at the last code cycle, Patrick and others said, mostly Patrick said, that it was more expensive to build under the commercial code for R2 with interior entrances, but some people presented contravening evidence. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, and then I mean, I do recall we considered a bunch of proposals where we had like solar requirements that were in the commercial code that we provided exemptions for the or not a complete exemption. They still have to do other things in lieu of, but we provided for affordable housing merely because we deemed those requirements as too onerous. So at least from my impression, was the commercial code is much more, and I can tell you from, it's definitely much more complicated from going through it to comply with it. But for cost wise, while I haven't costed out anything, my assumption is it's much harder on the commercial code. I know definitely on the text is harder to navigate.
It's more complicated, but it's not more expensive because there are other things in the residential code, including the residential credits and the envelope assemblies and so forth, that make that side more expensive. So our analysis showed that it was a little cheaper and not much. And this was our intention there was to put all the multifamily into one code so that you didn't have a difference between a 3 and a 4-story building. And then we made the one exemption for what we called woody walk-ups, those that were accessed from the exterior and 3 stories or less.
Well, this proposal would allow you to choose whichever one you perceived as being easier to comply with. And I mean, if this makes affordable housing in our state easier to build, I mean, that looks like a huge positive to me. So I'm going to support this because it perceives as helping affordable housing.
Thanks, Greg. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I would support this too because I think the argument about which code is cheaper or easier doesn't come into it for me because this is giving people the choice and they can decide which one's cheaper or easier. I think if anybody has anything to say about, I'd be curious about whether this would make these buildings more or less energy efficient in commercial or residential. Is there a reason that they should be in commercial because they won't be as efficient if they're in residential? I think that might be a valid reason. But as far as the cost of either way, this is offering the builder the choice or the architect the choice, and I don't think they can figure out which one would cost less. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Go ahead, Johnny.
I just wanted to let you know that Deepa is here and I'm the alternative.
All right. Thanks, Johnny. Go ahead, Shane.
I'm on the fence on this, but I do think it needs more work before we should vote on it. So
specific?
Yes. Because, well, one, just from a language standpoint, when you say can choose, it really code language would be, or you say would be permitted to comply with when you're given an option. But this also is modifying the scope of the code when it's saying that you can go one either with a residential or commercial. So on some level, this language needs to be incorporated into R101.2. And I think maybe it'd be best for the proponent to come back with that adjustment rather than us trying to wordsmith it here, which is why I think we should probably table it, but I don't want to control on this because, like I said, I'm also on the fence on the entire proposal.
Okay, and you had two specific comments. One was change can choose to comply to is permitted to comply.
Yes.
Okay, we can make that change on the fly. And what was the other change?
And then just in general, that's scoping language. So it shouldn't be within this definition. It should be within R101.2.
Perhaps it should be in both.
You could argue both. But when you're telling someone which code to use,
on part one. Do you want to take that?
yep. Yeah, when you're telling someone which code to use, it belongs in the scope. You shouldn't have it like even duplicating to me. Like I'm a code purist, so like don't put that in the definition. It doesn't belong in the definition. It belongs in the scope. But technically, would it hurt anything if it's in the definition? Maybe if we forget about it in the future and there's a code change that doesn't capture that. So
Okay, yep, so the language needs to be put in R11.2 as well, and that seems like a modification of the proposal. And we would probably need that language in front of us to want to vote on it. Unless, Krista, you think there's a way of just copy pasting it and having it be reasonable.
But remember that the other exception isn't in that other section either. This was all put in the definition.
Yep.
Sorry, could you expand on that other exception?
The exception that allows the low-rise buildings that are accessed from exterior walkways.
Well, I guess the way I read that, it's just saying that that's not falling under the definition of residential building, but it's not telling you which code that you use. So there's a difference between the definition and a scope.
Yep, yep, you're right.
Are you okay? So I was trying to follow that discussion. So you're saying it's okay if we approve this, or are you saying it's we would need to modify 101.2?
I'm still saying modify R101.2, and I think Dwayne, you were agreeing with me.
Yeah, this means that we have essentially the definition now is getting more diffuse in the code. It's going to be harder for people to, because you'll have to find one exception in the scoping section and then another exception out here in the definition.
I would think 101.2 would be easier to read if it was like a bulleted list or a numbered list instead of a big long paragraph. It's getting longer and longer.
Yeah, you'd hope it would be the same list you have here if it's trying to list the same things. Okay, it sounds like we need to modify this. I don't know. I'm on the fence about whether we should table it or do something else with it right now, wordsmith it right now. Because every time we bring a proposal, it takes 5 or 10 minutes to like get back into it. So if we could spend 5 minutes now and get it in good shape, that would probably be time better spent. Would this be copy pasting number 5 into the R11.2?
And then you would change 101.2 into a list. Is that right?
Yep.
I'm sorry, this is getting too hairy to be an on-the-fly modification that we don't have a chance to review.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm not willing to do this on the fly.
All right.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to make a motion to table?
Yeah, motion to postpone.
Okay.
Second.
A motion to postpone. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion to postpone. We have some good ideas of how to modify it. All in favor of the motion to postpone, say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Okay, we have postponed it. We've been in here for an hour and 45 minutes. We have approved or disapproved 3 things, and tabled 3 things. We need to find a way to work a little bit faster as a group. We are going to take a 5-minute break. So I will see you at 10:20 and we'll go to 001. See you in 5 minutes. All right, welcome back. Erica Spiritos, are you around? Let's see you on the.
They had indicated they would not be available until after 11.
Okay. All right. We will not go to 1, we will go to 027. And Anne, you have the floor.
Okay, that's me. All right. This one is near and dear to my heart. So I'm trying to go to the 2024 value for attics of going from R60 to R49. R60 is problematic for builders and it doesn't belong in our climate zone. So it was voted in the 2021 code cycle, and it was voted in a way that never had happened before. So the proposal was heard at the code action hearings and the public comment hearings, and it was voted down resoundingly. And the reasons why it was voted down are the same reasons that we have listed in our amendment. It just doesn't make sense. The payback in climate zone 4 for this added insulation is 152 years. So it was voted down. It only made it into the code because during the final vote, the online governmental vote, the disapproved vote was overturned by 2/3. And this was done because there was a get out the vote campaign. And so they brought in many more voters into the government vote, and they expanded the reach and included government offices such as the Office of Climate Sustainability and such. So they were able to gain a lot of votes and then overturn that and get it in. So since then, ICC has changed the way things are done. And now if something is voted in and disapproved in all of the public hearings, it will never make it to the government online vote. So this is just to point out that if this happened now, it would have never made it into the code. So going forward in 2024, the model code went from the R60 to the R49. Another good point is that R60 never made it into the commercial code. So if you were to today build a townhome and follow the IBC and the commercial code, you would be able to use R49. And so it doesn't make sense that the residential code would be more restrictive than the commercial code in this regard. Okay, so the builders, it's problematic because if you need to get the full R60 value over the eave, you're going to have a raised heel truss. And you're going to need about 16 to 18 inches of depth. And that it can greatly increase the cost of the truss because you're not just making it deeper by adding the vertical piece, you're adding a diagonal piece, you're adding more plates. So it is a substantial cost to that. And of course, you're adding additional siding, additional sheathing. The blocking is probably one of the biggest things because normally on a normal truss, you just block with a solid sawn 2x8 or such, your bird block. And now you're going to a taller block or 2 pieces, more labor, more cost. All right, so a lot of you guys, I know you don't want to go back in stringency. And so in the last part of the amendment, I show the table. If you could scroll to the table, and I talked about this at the last meeting. But the point I want to show this table to show you how well we're doing. So right now, the residential code, we're at 42.4% of our goals, and we have 3 code cycles to get to the magic 30. So that means we only need to improve things by 4.1%. And so we can have a little retraction. Furthermore, when you look at the overall picture of what we're doing with the U factors and the R values, we're increasing the stringency on several of those. And one of the ways I've found, we're doing a lot as a structural engineer. I'm getting more into this energy, and we're doing a lot of the UA C3 calcs for our builders because we're finding that's one of the most efficient ways to get the most economical solution for insulation. And I looked at what would happen. Okay, if you go with straight what we're proposing to put in those U factor tables, with the increase in stringency to